Hopefully my screen visible. So let me recall what we have done in the last lecture. So last lecture we have seen the interest rate calculation for the fixed income security, which are so-called risk-free security. However, we have seen they are not actually risk-free. There are certain risks associated with the bonds as well as some other risk-free securities also. Okay. So let me summarize what we have done in the interest rate calculation. So basically, there are two types of interest rate calculation that we have seen. So let I write in the notepad. I hope it is visible. Tell me if it is not visible. So this interest rate okay, I hope it's worked now. Okay, basically two types. One is the simple interest calculation and second one is the compounding. Right, and we have seen the formula, generalized formula in both the case. In case of the simple interest, if I calculate the value at time t equal to say some capital T with the investment amount of say some constant P0, then it gives me P0 into 1 plus R into T, capital T, where T is what? Number of years, right? So I can write it like this. Okay. So this is the simple interest calculation. PT is equal to P0, 1 plus R into T. If R is the interest rate per year and T is the number of years, I can get this much of amount, right? In case of the compounding interest, if I write it, then we have seen a generalized case where PT, I don't know why this is creating some problem, is equal to P0 into 1 plus R raised to what? T, right? Where this T is the investment period, or we can say number of years. And what is R here? This R is very important term, which is effective annual rate, right? And this capital T, you can say, is a period. Okay. Now this this periodic compounding, if the interest rate is not specified as the effective annual rate, we can write it like this also. So it is also is equal to 1 plus R period. Suppose the interest rate is specified for some period. So it is 1 plus R period, I say. Just please bear with this notepad because that creates some problem. 1 plus R period raised to what it will be? Number of periods per year. I say it is number of periods per year multiplied with the duration, maybe in number of years, say capital T. So we have seen this two formula, right? Also in case of the simple interest, suppose again the interest rate sometime is not specified for annual, right? It is specified for the entire period. Then we can write it like this: 1 plus R of T, where this RT is the interest rate for the entire duration. So that calculation is also there in the simple interest. So this you need to take care. In compounding, if I go with the continuous compounding, this all the other cases are the discrete compounding, but if I go with the continuous compounding, then the formula will be, instead of capital T, I use the small t because it's a case of the continuous compounding. It is equal to the initial amount P0 multiplied by the growth factor. That is P0. Sorry, this notepad is slightly problematic. Okay, P0 into e raised to RCT, where this RC is continuous compounding rate. All right, so I hope you are able to recall all this formula that we have seen last lecture. Okay, so let me summarize that in the Word document, and then we also see in this PPT that we have seen this simple interest calculation. PT is equal to P0 into 1 plus RT, right? We get this much of return after the T years, right? And if I specify the interest rate for the duration, then this R suffix T is equal to R into T. And in case of the compounding, we can have this formula PT is equal to P0 into 1 plus R period raised to number of periods per year into T, or it is equal to P0 into 1 plus R raised to T, where this R is the effective annual rate. So mostly we are interested in finding the effective annual rate, and that we can compare for different securities. Okay. If it is a continuous compounding, we have seen the formula is like this: PT is equal to P0 e raised to RC into T, right? So that's what we have learned last lecture. So now let me continue with this, and we use this in calculation of the time value of money and its application in calculation of the annuity, the loan EMI, and the bond yield. So we see these three application. Okay, so let me go to this time value of money, and that basically is used to calculate the present and future value of cash flow. So if I have some predetermined cash flow in future, I can calculate its present value. Or if I have some present amount with me, I can calculate its future value. So there are two types of, you can say, calculation use. One is with the fixed with the simple interest, and another is with the compounding interest. You can also use the continuous compounding interest. Now we know that the value of money decreases with respect to time. So let I say my V suffix capital T is value of future payment after period T. So I know that in future I have to pay this much of amount at some time, capital T, after some period, capital T. And let I say RT is the simple interest rate of this period. That interest rate I can find by looking at the websites of the government securities. What is the present market interest rate that I can calculate? So I have this future payment with me. I know in future I have to pay this much of amount, right? And I know in market what is the interest rate going on with the simple interest, right? Say RT for this period, right? Then what will be the present value? How much amount I need at present so that I can deposit in some instrument which gives me this much of return, and at that particular time I can pay this payment. This is very simple question. So if I have to calculate its present value, V in bracket 0, remember this is a fixed value VT. That V bracket 0 is a function of time. You can see when I write anything, it is a function of time. You recall the signal system terminology, right? So this present value V0 is what? In a simple interest rate calculation, it is VT into some D, where what is this D is a discount factor. And I'm using a simple interest rate calculation. And for the period T, the total interest is RT. The rate of interest is RT. So definitely my present value will be future value divided by 1 plus RT, because I have to pay in future. So I need some less money presently, and I invest in the security which gives me this much interest. So this is VT into D, where D is what? VT divided by 1 plus RT, where that D equal to 1 plus RT we call the discount factor. Now instead of investing in an instrument which gives me simple interest, if I invest in an instrument which gives me compounding interest, right? Definitely it will be more beneficial. So if I use this compounding instead of this simple interest calculation, then we use the effective annual rate R. We have seen in case of the compounding interest rate, the effective annual rate is better to compare the securities, right? While in case of the simple interest, you can use either annual rate or you can use the rate for the entire period, right? So you can use anyway. While here it is better to use the effective annual rate R. And let I say N is number of years, says N is number of years, or you can say capital T is number of years, whatever use the designation. Then in that case, the formula remains same, V0 equal to Vt into D, but D will change. It will not be 1 plus RT, but it will become 1 plus R raised to N. Why it becomes 1 plus R raised to N? Because of the compounding effect. I hope you get this. So if I invest in such security, the present value will be V0 into Vt divided by 1 plus R raised to N rather than Vt divided by 1 plus RT. Okay. And if I invest in a security which gives me continuous compounding, there are no such security actually there, but if I have such, then this discount factor is this. Why? It is 1 divided by e raised to RCT, right? So if I take 1 divided by e raised to RCT, it becomes e raised to minus RCT, right? So that much amount I need in the present. Okay. Now this is a very simple thing. In practice, the situation is not that much simple, right? So let me go to some practical situations. We take certain assumptions in situations and then we can go to the real situations, right? So now we extend this to multiple payments or cash flow, right? So let I consider some time interval 0 to t, where 0 is my present time. So let I have one time axis, say t equal to 0 and t equal to capital T, and it consists of m equally spaced period. So let I sample it and I have m equal period. So let I say t equal to 0, t equal to t1, t equal to t2 up to t equal to t. All periods are of equal duration, maybe 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 3 months, whatever be the period, right? But it is m equally spaced period. Entirely time interval is 0 to capital T. This capital T may be in number of years, number of months, number of weeks, anything, and any unit may be there. Let I say it is time period. Okay, and in that time period I have some, you can say, equally spaced intervals, okay, samples. And let I designate, because this is a discrete case, instead of dealing with the exact time value, let I designate an index, say small m equal to 0, 1, 2 up to say up to some m, right? Which depends on what is the length of this period. Okay, and for each period, let I say the period for each period, say 0 to t1, t1 to t2, the interest rate remains same, and the interest rate is say R per period. I say interest rate per period is R. The period may be year, okay, maybe month, maybe week, or maybe 6 months, maybe 4 months. So that depends on the specification. Okay, so let I say my R is the interest rate per period, and I have, suppose amount P0. I have amount P0 initially. Okay, suppose received amount P0 somewhere, right? Say I have income of P0 at time 0 and invest it in bank or bond at this time. In addition, now once I invest in this bank or bond, I receive some amount, say P1 after period 1, and I will reinvest it in the same bank or bond, which provides me the same type of interest rate. I will receive period, say amount P2 after say period 2 or second interval, and invest it in the same bank or same bond. Sorry, just please invest in this same bank or same bond. Okay, and so on. I assume the rate of interest is same. Practically it may be changed, so calculation may be slightly complicated, but right now theoretically we take it some assumption that we say the interest rate remains same. And I am doing this until the final time t, and at that instant I am receiving the final amount, which is PM. Okay, I hope this situation is clear. And I want to calculate what is the future value of all this cash flow. What will be the future value of all this cash flow at time t equal to capital T. Okay, now here remember, I have taken a case where P0 is amount held by me and I'm lending it to bank. Okay, then P1, P2, PM are the amounts I'm receiving from the bank or bond as an interest, or maybe as some gain, or maybe maturity value, whatever be it, right? Let me say this is the situation. In some cases, this P's means P1, P2, PM, or this P0 may be negative. In which case it will be negative? instead of lending the amount, suppose I am borrowing. So a case of loan, instead of giving money to bank, I am borrowing. So this P0, if I am lending, I am making investment. If I am borrowing, right, it may becomes negative. Then P1, P2, PM, what it will be interest, instead of receiving interest from bank, I will pay something to the bank, which may be the interest plus some principal value, right? Or only interest in some case, or mostly it is involving two components, interest and some principal value. And then I will do it until this time t equal to t. So remember, this p can be positive or this p can be negative, depends on whether we are receiving or we are giving the money, lending or borrowing. So I hope this situation is clear, right? So when we program, you need to take care about this sign. Okay. Now I want to calculate the future value of this m cash flow, because there are total m number of cash flow. You can see it start at m equal to 0, 1, 2 up to m, right? Initially, I assume I have some amount or I will borrow some amount, right? Then I have m number of cash flow. And I want to calculate the future value of such m cash flow using the compounding with every period. Let I assume my amount get compounded every period, because I am receiving P1, then reinvest it, P2, reinvest it, and keep doing so on. So how I can calculate the future value? Say P of capital T. Then I have invested amount P0. Okay. Now this will keep with bank for what period? It will be up to period t equal to capital T, or in a, you can say number of periods are m, say 1, 2, 3 up to m number of periods. So what will be its future value? Its present value is P0. This P0 is constant. So it is P0 multiplied by R is the interest rate per period, and that get compounded for how many periods? M. So it is P0 into 1 plus R raised to M plus P1. What will be P1? Now see, it is the amount which is invested at time t equal to t1. I received that as an interest or some gain and reinvest it in the same bank or bond at this same interest rate. So that amount will be there with bank for with the bond for m minus 1 period. So it is P1 1 plus R raised to m minus 1. Similarly, plus P2 1 plus R raised to m minus 2. And last amount, that is PM, I am receiving at this time t equal to capital T or at the end of this mth period, but that amount is now with me. I'm not doing any further investment. So that amount itself is available with me. So this is my future value, right? This is my future value of all this cash flow, assuming the interest rate remains same. If interest rate is different, I have to replace this R by different values. Okay. Instead of this compounded at every period, if I use a continuous compounding, let I say I invest this P0 and the amount get continuously compounded at every interval, at every instant, every t. It is instead of discrete, it will become continuous. Then what will be my future value? So PT will be P0 instead of 1 plus R factor, there will be exponent e raised to R. Now the period rate is R multiplied by. Now here instead of m number of periods, I have to use the exact value of time, which is capital T, maybe in years or months or whatever. So it is P0 into e raised to RT. So that money P0 will grow to P0 e raised to R capital T. Then P1, which is received at t equal to T1. So it will grow again at the same exponential P1 e raised to R, but the period will be T minus T1 and so on. Last amount will be PM, which is received by me and not invested. So at that instant, the amount available is PM. So likewise, I can say if I have this cash flow, then with continuous compounding, I have this future value, and with the compounding with period, means at every period, if I get a compounding interest, then I have this future value. I hope this calculation is clear. So this is the case where I know my investment at present or borrowing at present and future payments, right? And the interest rate. Okay. So I can calculate what will be the future value of all this cash flow. Sometimes I want to calculate the present value. Let me go to that. But before we go to that, I hope this is clear. It's very simple. Any doubts so far?
Sir, if the deposition period and the compounding period are different, then what we will do?
Right. So that will be slightly complicated kind of calculation. So say your compounding period say is 2. Let I say the compounding at 2, right? And the you can say the receiving the amount say at period 1, at every period 1, then the calculation will be slightly different. So here when you write P0 into 1 plus R, so first of all this R is to be considered for this period. So you have to write R2, which is the interest rate for this period. Now instead of compounding for m number of periods, we get m by 2. So that will become m by 2. Now then I receive P1 amount at period 1. So again it will be compounded after how many periods that I need to know. Suppose again it will be compounded after 2 periods. So again I have to use that interest rate, and the number of periods will change depends on how many periods left up to time t equal to t. I hope I answered.
Yes, sir.
That manually is very difficult. For that we need to go to the computer based or software based, right? So that's why we will see MATLAB, right? Help of MATLAB. This calculation looks very simple but becomes very non-linear. It's highly non-linear calculation in real practice. It looks very simple financial thing, but in practice it is very complicated, highly non-linear. Okay, any other doubt? All right. So now let me go to the present value calculation. So we apply a reverse calculation. Now here I want to calculate a present value of some m future payments, say V0, V1, V2 up to Vm with compounding period rate, say R. Same situation is there. Let I now want to calculate not P of t but V of 0. I have changed the symbol. You can keep it same symbol, right? No issue, right? So I want to calculate this V of 0. And I know the future payments means at this instant it is V0, then V1, V2 up to say Vm. Then what will be my present value of all these future payments? So constant V0 at present is same, right? In future I have payment V1, so its present value will be less with compounding. With compounding at rate R, it is V1 divided by 1 plus R, then V2 at second interval. So it is V2 divided by 1 plus R square, and last one is Vm divided by 1 plus R raised to m. So if I have to pay these amounts in future, then how much amount I need at present, that I can calculate if I invest in an instrument which gives me the return R at compounding rate at every interval. Okay, then this will be my present value. So I can plan accordingly, right? That is my plan. Okay, and this first situation is just an, you can say, illustration. What will be my future value if I invest? What will be my future value? And this, if I have taken a loan, I can use this, right? What will be my present value? So I hope you understood this. So in short, the future value and present value are related. If I say future value V capital T, I can write it by this equation. It is inspired by this same equation. Instead of P0, I have used symbol V0. I will correct it to make it same P0 later on. Okay. So it is this equation. If I have to calculate the present value, it is this. Ultimately, these two V of 0 and V of t are related by this equation. You can see the relation between these two. If you divide this V of t or P of t by 1 plus R raised to m, then you get this equation. So ultimately V of 0 is V of t divided by 1 plus R raised to m. Okay. So that way we have relation between present value and the future value. Usually we use the compounding interest, right? The simple interest practically may not be used, right? Or continuous compounding is not practical. So we use this discrete compounding. I hope it is clear, the present value and the future value of cash flow, which is also called pricing theory in finance. We are not gone in the detail, right? We just interested in the calculation and how it will help in the planning. Okay, now let I take the application of this present and future value. Let I have these two projects. First project requires the investment of 1 million. This is just a rough figure. It will return 1.5 million after 1 year and 2 million after 2 years. And I have an opportunity to go in second project, which requires investment of 1.2 million. It will return 1.2 million, same investment. It will return 1.2 million after 1 year. See, first project 1 million investment returns 1.5 million after 1 year. Second project investment of 1.2 million returns 1.2 million after 1 year. The first project returns 2 million after 2 years and the second project returns 2.6 million after 2 years. So which project should I go? And by search, I have found that the market interest rate at present is 6% per annum. Now you say how to find this? So for that, you have to find the government security rate that illustrate the market interest rate. Next week, when we go to practical, I will illustrate this, how to find this from website like Bloomberg or some Money Control or some other website. OK, there is a government security rate which is almost constant for particular period, right? So what is present government security rate, that you can refer to website, and next week when we go to practical, we will find it from the website. What is current market interest rate, that is called government GSEC rate. You might have heard this name, GSEC rate. Let me say it is 6% per annum. So with this present situation, which project should I select? Can anybody tell me? The solution I have written, but I will hide it. Can anybody give me idea how to proceed for this problem? This is very practical problem. When you go for any industry, you have to plan for this. You have to take 2-3 opportunities, and from this, which opportunity is better, that you need to determine. Then how you determine? Now, can you tell me how to proceed? I hope you understand the question. Let I write it on the notepad. So just a minute, I make it in a proper position. Yeah, so I have 2 projects. So let me summarize this situation. I have project 1 and let I place it on a timeline. Say this is my timeline 0. Period 1 means 1 year, and period 2, say year number 2. OK, now project 1 requires investment of say 1 million. I write it 1. OK, so I am writing it with negative sign. Let I invest it. OK, then as per the data, after 1 year, it returns me. So I am receiving some amount. So I am on receiver side. So it returns me 1.5 million, say plus. OK, and after 2 years, let me refer to data what it receives after 2 years. It receives, let I go to data. It receives 1.5 million after 1 year, and just a minute. What happened? I don't know. Yeah, so it receives 1.5 million after 1 year and 2 million after 2 years, right? So it is receiving 2 million after 2 years. So again, I am on receiving side with +2 sign. OK, now with the project 2, so the span is slightly creating problem, so bear with it. Next time I will change it. So I have project 2, which gives me on the same time frame, I need to invest how much, say somewhat 1.2, 1.2 and 2.6. So 1.2 is my investment. 1.2 I will get return, and 2.5. It is given that the market, 2.6. OK, and the market interest rate is 6%. OK, that is given to us. So let I correct this 2.6. And interest rate is 6% per annum. That is specified. Now you tell me how to proceed. Which of this will be better? How to proceed? What should I calculate? It's very common thing to consider. Can you tell me which thing I will calculate? Which parameter should I calculate so I can say, okay, this one is better? Those who want to go in industry, this kind of things will be there in practice. This is very simple. In practice, it will be slightly complicated. Yep, I want to have some answer. What should I calculate? So what I calculate? The present value of both the project. So I calculate present value of say project 1. Now what is present value of the project 1? Right now I am investing 1 million, so it is -1 plus I am receiving 1.5, but that is after 1 year, right? So its present value is what? 1.5 divided by what is the interest rate for period? For a year it is specified 6%, right? If it is not specified, we have to convert for a period, right? And that is 1 plus R. So that discount factor is 1 divided by 1 plus R here because it is for 1 year only, right? So 1 plus 0.06 plus I am receiving 2 million after 2 years. So using compounding at every year because I am using an yearly interest rate and yearly compounding because I'm receiving amount after every year. So that will be my present value of project 1 -1 plus 1.5 divided by 1 plus 0.06 plus 2 divided by 1 plus 0.06 square. Whatever I get, that I should write. And same way for present value of project 2. That will be what? Here my investment is initially not 1, but it is 1.2. So it is -1.2 plus this will return me 1.2 itself after 1 year. So it is present value is not 1.2, but it is 1.2 divided by 1 plus 0.06. Please bear with this pen. Plus what I get 2.6 after 2 years. So it is 2.6 divided by 1 plus 0.06 whole square, right? Because it is compounding. And then which should I select? Higher value or lower value? Now at least that answer you can give me. It's a very common answer. Yeah, any answer? Which should I select? The project which has present value higher or lower? Can anybody specify me answer? So those project who has higher present value is better because the returns are available in future, but its present value is better, right? Looking at the market rate, it is looking better. So that project should I select, right? So by calculation, I will find that with this calculation, the present value of first project is 2.1951 million and second project is 2.2461 million. So project 2 is likely to be more profitable because its present value is higher. So see, by looking at the data, you find that 1 million returns 1.5 million in 1 year, right? Here 1.2 million returns same amount in 1 year. So by looking at naked eye, it looks that the project 1 is advantageous, but by calculating this with the market interest rate, right, you will come to calculation that the project 2 is the more beneficial. So see, this is required. Okay, so I hope you got this thing right. Now we go to now next application. So first application we have seen with this present and future value. Now next application in the annuity or loan installment calculation. Now what is annuity? So annuity is a constant amount, say P. It is paid at regular interval. It is also called pension, right? Or annuity. Paid at regular interval for M equal period. Let me say for some M equal period, it is paid from invested amount, say V0. So if I invest in some pension fund, say amount capital V0 at this instant of time, right? So, and then from that, the company will pay me, say amount P at regular interval, maybe monthly, quarterly, yearly, half yearly, whatever, right? Or I can say the same parameters in a different way. Let I say V0 is the my loan amount. Let I say V0 is the my loan amount. Instead of investing, I have borrowed. Okay. And this P instead of the annuity is the installment that I am paying over M equal in over M periods. And the installment is say same or equal for this M period. And the interest rate is R over 1 period. Let I say interest rate is R over 1 period. So I want to calculate the present value in both the case. First the case of the annuity, then we take one example with the loan. So in this case, I use the same formula that I have studied. But here there are slightly different cases. First one, I have invested an amount V0, right? In case of the annuity, okay. I get the pension P at a regular interval. So V1, V2, Vm all are equal to P. So all my V1, V2, Vm equal to P. Sorry, it's just correct. V0 is equal to 0. Okay, don't write this. There is a mistake. This V0 should be equal to 0. Then V1, V2 up to Vm should be equal to P because I invest at this time. So I will get the annuity at the next interval after the end of the first period, not at the beginning of the period. Okay, so V0 must be 0. So if I substitute this now, what happens in my formula? This V0 is equal to 0 and then V1, V2, Vm all are replaced by P. Okay, and interest rate for period is R, so it remains same with the compounding. And then if I take P divided by 1 plus R common, then it becomes a geometric progression series. And if I apply this formula, I want to know what will be my annuity P with this investment amount V0 and the interest rate over a period is R and invested over M period. So I know the number of periods, I know the interest rate per period, and I know my initial investment amount, and that determines my annuity. So see, same formula is used, time value of money, to calculate the annuity amount. Now we use the same formula to calculate the loan installment. Let me take one example. If this is clear, then tell me, we go to the example. Any doubt in this calculation? Any doubt so far? Okay. So let me go to this example of loan EMI. So I am taking this data, which is very simple. You can take the practical data also, and we take the practical data in practicals. So we have housing loan, say of 4 lakhs, amortized over 30 years. So I have taken an housing loan of 4 lakhs, amortized over 30 years. The installment are to be paid monthly. That is called EMI, equated monthly installment. So I have to find the EMI value, and the company or bank said to me that the effective annualized interest rate is 8%. The term here effective is wrong. I think it should be only nominal interest rate is 8%. Just correct. I will correct it in my slide also. Instead of effective, the banks use this word. Nominal interest rate per annum, 8%, right? It is not effective. It is nominal interest rate per annum is 8%. That is specified. Please correct this word. It is nominal annualized interest rate is 8%. Then I want to calculate this EMI, and then I want to calculate balance after every month. What will be my balance from this 4 lakhs? If I paid EMI, how much is the interest part and how much is the principal part? So can anybody tell me how to proceed for this? Can this same formula will help me? This is very practical subject, so I need answer from you. This is a risk-free security, so we have only the return R. When we go to stock, we have risk as well as return, so calculations will be slightly difficult. So please be careful in this calculation. If we do the simple things initially, it is better. Yeah, just can anybody give me answer how to proceed with this example? All right, so let me take this data in the Word document. So what we know my initial loan amount which I have taken from bank, which is say 4 lakhs. So my V0 is 4 lakh. I know the installment is to be paid monthly and the time period capital T is 30 years. Time period is 30 years, but number of periods are how many? Because I have to pay monthly, so number of periods are 360. So I have to calculate how many periods. So that will gives me number of periods. So that is very important in calculation. Whether it is month or whatever be doesn't make any issue, right? So this is number of periods. Then next thing, the interest rate. It is specified. It is 8% per annum, and that is nominal, right? So this is interest rate, but I have to pay the installment monthly. So this is the nominal interest rate per annum. So I need to calculate the interest rate for period, right? So my interest rate for period, instead of writing this as R, let I designate this, say this is R nominal. Span is creating problems. Let I write I nominal is 8%. So interest rate for period is how much? It is 8% divided by 12. So that is my monthly interest rate, right? So that is 2 by 3%. OK, so now can anybody tell me how can I calculate EMI? Which thing will give me EMI? Which thing will give me EMI? Can I use this formula? Yes. See here, this P was the annuity which I was receiving. Now this P is the same value that I am paying after 1 month, 2 months, say up to M number of months. I know this R for a period, which I have calculated. V0, the loan amount, I know. OK, number of periods I know. So just use this formula. P is equal to R1 plus R raised to M V0 divided by 1 plus R raised to M minus 1. So using this formula, you can calculate this, right? So for EMI, I am writing simply use the formula. Use the formula, and with the formula, whatever be the P value, that is your EMI. So see, the calculation is for different purpose, but same formula gives me the answer. So if I use this formula, I substitute M equal to 30 into 12, which is 360. R is 8 by 12 in percentage. So it is 800 by, so 8 by 12%. So whatever be that, right, that can I substitute. And V0 is my loan amount, which is 4 lakhs. So by substituting this, I get this calculation, this 2946. So this P I will get 2946. So that is my EMI. Now I want to calculate the balance at the end of the second month. I want to calculate the balance at the end of the second month and also want to find the future value of the amount. OK, I also want to find the future value of the amount. How can I proceed? How can I proceed? So these are practical things that if you answer, it will be better. I am hiding this slide. I know the EMI, I know all this data. Now I want to calculate what will be my balance at the end of first month, what will be balance at the end of second month, and how much future value of this all these payments. I am doing so many cash flow. So what will be actually I am paying? What is the future value of all this amount that I am paying? Is it 4 lakh, 8 lakh, 12 lakh? Can anybody tell me how to do this? So I proceed. Yes, yes.
The future value can be calculated using that M cash flow formula.
Okay. Now here cash flow is constant. Cash flow is constant. All cash flow are P. I know the R, right? The R is same. All the cash flows are same. I know the capital M. I have received a loan amount of 4 lakhs. And then I am paying an EMI every month of 2946 for 360 months, right? For 360 months. So what will be my future value? Simple. V of 30 is 4 lakh, which is presently I'm receiving, into 1 plus the interest rate R, which is monthly interest, 8% divided by 12, convert into percent by dividing it by 100. So it is 0.0067 raised to how much? 360, because I have paid for how many periods? 360. So it is 1 plus R period into number of period raised to number of periods, right? So you can see it is 4 lakh into 1 plus this 0.0067 raised to 360, and you will surprise it will come to 44 lakhs 26,747. So you have taken a loan of 4 lakh, and then every month you say, oh, I am paying only 2946, right? But suppose if you have this amount with you, then its future value is this 44 lakhs 26,747. So if you purchase a house with this loan amount and you paid this EMI, if your house at the end of 30 years, if cost this value, then only this worth. I hope you understand. Is it clear? I hope you understand this.
Yes, sir.
So buying a house for investment is a wise decision or not? How you calculate? आप तो ऐसा करते हो कि नहीं चलो अभी इतना लोन ले लेता हूं मैं और ये परचेस कर लेता हूं, ठीक है, बाकी ईएमआई तो भरता रहूंगा और फिर जब सेल होगा तब. लेकिन यू हैव नॉट कैलकुलेटेड दिस टाइम वैल्यू ऑफ मनी दैट यू हैव पेड इन द पास्ट, राइट? So at the end of the 30 year, if your house will get this value, you are assured or you have surety that, okay, I purchased this house and at the end of 30 years, it will value this and I will be able to sell at that value. Then it will be no profit, no loss business. Remember, then also it will be no profit, no loss business. If you sell at somewhat higher price, then only it will be profitable business. And that profit also you can calculate by using the same calculation, how much percentage of profit you will get if you get something beyond this. I hope you understand this now clearly. Also, I have given a calculation how to calculate the balance at every month. So calculate the interest to be paid at every month, then subtract the EMI amount. But when you subtract the EMI amount, you have to add the interest amount that you have paid actually inside this EMI amount, right? So you are actually not paying 2946 principal value, but inside that there is an interest 2680 for first month. So you have to subtract this. So your only amount that paid is very small, not 2946. So at the end of 1 month, you will get 3,99,734 balance outstanding. Then at the second month, the interest is calculated on this amount. So you calculate the interest, then subtract the EMI from the entire amount, but add this interest amount, right? So you will get this much of your balance. So you see, this is the trick, right? This is the trick. And by doing this in an Excel sheet or in program, you will get a complete chart. You will get a complete chart, how much interest, how much principal I am paying at every month, and how much is my balance outstanding, and then finally a future value, right? So that is the entire structure. And when you get loan from the company, the company gives you only the value of EMI, right? They will not give this breakup, right? So you have to do it. I hope you get this, right? Now, next application is with the bond yield. I want to complete it today, but I think the time is not much left out. It is 10:55. So let I introduce this and then we end this lecture and we calculate this bond yield. It is yet more complicated calculation than this loan EMI or annuity. But I hope you will learn this I will upload this slide today. So we will calculate now bond yield, which is called yield to maturity or YTM. This is very common term in the bond market, YTM, yield to maturity, bond yield. So what is this? The yield of a bond is defined as that interest rate. It is actually one interest rate, but it is that interest rate value for which the present value of bonds payments equals the current bond price. So suppose you purchase some bond from market at some current bond price, and you know, because bond is a risk-free security, so you know in future the coupon payments and the face value, right? Say after 6 months I will get this, 12 months I will get this, and maturity I will get this. So face value is known, the coupons are known, and convert into the present value, right? And if it will equal to the current bond price, at what rate? That is my bond yield. In general investment, this term is also called internal rate of return or IIR. This is a common term, IIR. In market, you just Google it, IIR. What is IIR? Which is very common term. Internal rate of return. MATLAB has function to calculate it. We will use it. The IIR of a bond is its yield. So actually, when you purchase bond at different price and there are some constant coupon associated with it for some maturity, you cannot say by looking at the price, I will get this much return. You have to calculate this IIR. So don't make yourself full by looking at only the value of the coupons or the maturity amount. You have to calculate IIR in a very similar way we have calculated the loan EMI or pension annuity, right? So next time we take a case of this bond which pays a face value equal to V. So on maturity, it will pay value V. And there are n coupon payments per year. So per year, say it will pay n number of coupons, which coupon size is fixed, say C by capital N. Say total coupon in a year is C, means payment is total C in a year, but it pays say monthly or quarterly or half yearly. So it is each coupon is say C by N at regular interval. OK, so annual payment is C, and the size of interval between payments expressed in year is 1 by N. See, it is C by N. So there are n coupons per year, and my investment horizon is capital T years, right? And the bond maturity is up to capital T years. So total number of periods are how many for this coupon? How many coupons total I am getting? Capital T is number of years into N is the number of coupons per year. So T into N, let I say capital M number of periods. This is very important, number of periods. So until maturity, I have capital M number of periods. And my current bond price is PT, which I am purchasing at this instant of time. So now I want to find how much yield I will get, how much effective interest rate, internal rate of return I will get if I purchase the bond at this price. I know the maturity period, I know the coupons per year, how much amount it will pay at regular interval in every year up to this maturity. And I want to find the yield which is written as YT, okay, using compound interest rate as well as simple interest rate calculation. So next time we will derive this formula using the same time value of money, okay, and that is used to calculate the yield. So when you purchase a bond, don't look at any parameters, don't look only at the yield, right? And then we will see some graphs which are called price yield curve or yield curve, which are very important, and we see how these curves are derived actually. And that will be the end of this stocks, and then we go to the end of the bonds or fixed security, fixed income security. Then we go to the stocks and risk, okay, and then we go to the portfolio theory, which has a risky as well as risk-free security. So next time, I hope you come with the thorough study of this time value of money, so we can apply it for calculation of the bond yield, okay, and we calculate also the term structure of bond next time. So I hope this whatever I taught today is clear to all of you. If any doubt so far, you can tell me. Meanwhile, I'm unsharing and stop recording.